Good day, folks. This is your hillbilly historian from the hills of East Tennessee in the middle of stormy weather, coming to you with a truthful subject that has a very, very dark side. Tonight, we're going to talk about election theft. Despite what the media likes to say to you, despite what judges who turn their backs on election theft, despite all the propaganda coming out of Washington, D.C., election theft is a horrific crime in America. We have more election theft than any other, well, not any other country. Venezuela's pretty bad. Canada looks like they've lost control of their elections. It's election theft is a horrible crime because it steals your vote away from you. It steals representation. You're not represented. You have no government. You're nothing but a peasant spitting in the wind. Election theft, and regrettably, our politicians and our judges and our media are accepting of this tremendous wave of election theft that we have flowing over America. It's a horrible crime, and it happens all the time. There's three methods of voting that lead to election theft. One is absentees. Now, absentees were started with the intent of stealing elections. And we'll get into that a little more. Provisional voting, provisional balloting. W. Bush came up with that idiotic concept. They stole the Senate election in Minnesota for a non-funny comedian by the name of Al Franken by counting provisionals and counting and counting and counting until he was ahead, and then they said, "Hey, look who wins. We got no more provisionals to count." And that's how they do it. The third method, the most corrupt method in America right now, is mail-in balloting. Excuse me. I was getting over a cold. Mail-in balloting, states of Washington and Oregon started that back when. And after they started mail-in balloting, no Republican has ever won a statewide office in Washington or Oregon. Maybe some lower level statewide offices, but no governorships, no Senate races. Because mail-in balloting is totally corrupt and corruptible, easily corruptible. But anyway, absentee balloting, absentee voting. In 1862, absentee balloting was invented. The Republicans, the radical Republicans, who got us into a serious civil war because they wanted to take over America. They wanted to get rid of these aristocrats and these Southerners and take over their states and rule over America. We were going from a republic to a federalism system of government, and it was going to be done with bullets and cannon fire. It was a horrible war with the intent of conquering the southern states and making them subdue and conform to federal wishes. But the war was not going well in 1862. It was not going well at all. They were getting their butts beat, except Grant and Sherman. They were doing pretty well out west, but that's not what the news media was concentrating on. Uh, Generals like McClellan, Hooker, and all these guys, they just were not doing very well. Burnside, they just weren't doing very well along the Potomac River in Virginia and Maryland and near Washington. And there was a strong Democrat Party movement. They call them the Copperheads in the North, and it looked like they were going to sweep the congressional elections, and they would have a Democrat majority in Congress, and they were going to basically they were running on a platform of letting the southern states go. You know, if they want to go off on their own, let them go. But the Republicans, that's not what they wanted. They wanted control. They wanted dictatorship, federalism run by Washington, D.C., and so they didn't want the southern states to go. And it looked like they were going to lose. Now, you have to remember, in 1862, women didn't vote. Blacks didn't vote. Even free blacks didn't vote. And it looked like they were going to lose the election and lose the war. And the Copperhead Democrats would sign peace treaties with the southern states, the Confederacy, and let them go their way. Well, Abraham Lincoln had a whole lot of Marxists in his government, and these were called the 48ers. They were the escapees from the 1848 Marxist socialist revolutions in major countries in Europe. And all these revolutions failed. Monarchs stayed in power, and they wanted to get rid of the monarchs in the South. But these people escaped from Europe, came to America, and one of them was appointed as Lincoln's number 2 man in the War Department. And his name was Charles Dana, and he was a devout Marxist socialist. And he invented absentee voting. What we'll do is we'll let all the guys on the front lines vote, and all the ballots had to go through the War Department, and then they would be distributed to precincts, their respective precincts all throughout the northern states. In this way, they could steal the election because there wasn't nobody looking over Charles Dana's shoulder, and there was no way to verify how these soldiers voted. And I would say Charles Dana was burning the midnight oil, filling out absentee ballots for these soldiers, and then they distributed them to the respective precincts. And lo and behold, the radical Republicans were able to remain in office, and through the theft of the midterm elections of 1862. Now, this system works so well, they were going to use it again. They were going to use this again in 1864, even though the war was going a lot better in 1864. Excuse me. The North had won the Battle of Gettysburg, and they'd won Vicksburg, and they were subduing the South very methodically. And then the Butcher, Grant, was moved east, take over the Army of the Potomac, and even though Lee whooped his butt in battle after battle, he never quit. He kept moving against Lee and driving him south, and eventually won the war over piles of dead bodies. And but that didn't matter to Grant. Victory was all the North was concerned about. And then they started Reconstruction, which was a name a mistermination for occupation and oppression of the South and the theft of the South, with hundreds of carpetbaggers and people who went to take advantage of the military victory and steal everything the South had to steal. Everything wasn't nailed down. But anyway, the theft of elections was begun by Charles Dana through the use of absentee voting. Now, over many years, absentee voting, most states were able to get control of absentee voting, and they thought it was a good thing because that way people who were homebound could still vote. People who were in home facilities, care facilities, could vote, and truck drivers could vote, this sort of thing. Military could vote, but that's pure unadulterated BS. And absentees were still used because I saw people steal elections by manipulating absentee voting. I saw a state representative who went home thinking he had won by 67 votes. He went to bed thinking he had won, but see, the night of the election, the tabulations are unofficial. They're not official until the election board meets and confirms the count, and then the results are official. Well, midnight, the Republican had won by 66 votes. The election director in Anderson County, Tennessee, the name of Alan Williams, and his Democrat buddy, Jerry Cross from Carroll, Tennessee, who had just lost by 66 votes, they went in, filled out 100 absentee ballots that night. And next morning, lo and behold, they found 100 absentee ballots that hadn't been counted before, and all 100 of them was, believe it or not, for Jerry Cross. And so he had a 34-vote victory, and they stole the election. And I saw Leif Jeffers get an election stolen from him. He ran for public defender. Yoakum girl from Claiborne County, whose sister was on the election board in Claiborne County, she lost by 12 votes, or 88 votes. She lost by 88 votes. Leif Jeffers went home thinking he had won. But the next morning, Claiborne County discovered the unofficial account was wrong, and that somebody forgot to carry a 1 in one of the precincts, and Yoakum had 100 more votes than they thought she had, so she had a 12-vote victory. Of course, Leif got upset and sued everybody under the sun, even people who helped him, and made everybody so mad and angry and upset that, of course, he had reason to be upset. They stole it from him. And 8 years later, he ran again and won. But there's election theft. You can go into the website of the American Heritage Group and think tank, and you can find all kinds of examples of election theft where judges prosecuted people for corrupt voting, corrupt campaigning, and all kinds of crimes that were committed. But once votes are counted, it seems like judges are scared to take the bull by the horn and declare it corrupt and evil and do anything about it. Uh, but don't let anybody kid you. Election theft, the 2020 election, using my 4-year mathematical algorithm on voter turnout, there's no way Joe Biden had 81 million votes in 2020. He only had 61 million. There were 20 million fraudulent votes cast, and it was done with corrupt mail-in balloting. America needs to totally outlaw mail-in voting, absentee voting, provisional voting. Provisional voting is where on election day you can go to the wrong precinct and they have to let you vote. And then the board later decides whether that vote's any good or not. And if they have enough provisionals to steal the damn election, they'll do it. And you cannot trust your election boards. You cannot trust politics. They'll steal an election. An election is something that people want to win, and they will take steps to steal elections if they think they can get away with it. And with mail-in balloting and absentee balloting, if you got the right people in the right place, you can absentees. Now, mail-in, you've got to have people who say, okay, I'm going to count them. If they come in, and like in Philadelphia in 2020, a transfer trailer hauled pallets of ballots to one of the election offices in Philadelphia to be tabulated, and dang, they tabulate them. Trump had something like a 760,000 vote lead when the polls closed, but hey, it's easy to put 1 million votes on the back of a transfer trailer, and all those ballots were marked for Joe Biden only. None of the local offices were marked. They were fake, false, and D'Souza, a man that Obama hated and went after him, and they found some little crime he had committed on a donation to a candidate, and they sent him to prison for 9 months. I mean, that's what the Democrats do. They use legal system to go after people they don't like. And but D'Souza proved that these drop boxes were being used. Cars were driving from drop box to drop box and dropping off lots of ballots in each drop box. And there was a purpose. That's why they were put out there. Zucker-Nazi, the owner of Facebook, is the one who paid to put those drop boxes all over the place. And they were used in a corrupt manner to steal the 2020 presidential election. And they'll do it again, and they'll do it over and over, and they'll keep doing it, because now, with election theft, your vote means nothing. It means nothing unless you crack down on your local election offices. And believe me, downtown Atlanta, and downtown Philadelphia, downtown Detroit, downtown Milwaukee, downtown Phoenix, downtown Las Vegas, these election offices are totally corrupt. And they'll remain that way until somebody does something about it. Both Senate elections, January the 5th, the night of January the 5th, 6th of 2021, both those Senate offices were stolen because I was able to hack in to the Fulton County tabulation computers, and I sat and watched all night. Republicans led in both offices all night until exactly 2:30 in the morning. 100,000 votes were given to each Democrat candidate, and that was too much for the Republicans to overcome. And about 3:30, after another hour of tabulation, they said, "That's it. We've counted them all. Democrats win." And then 2 years later, they stole that office again from Herschel Walker. Because there ain't no way Herschel Walker was going to lose an election in the state of Georgia. He won their first national championship in football. The boy was loved by everybody. He was a bright young man, and there was no reason for him to lose that election except through corrupt tabulations in downtown Fulton County, Atlanta. And so election theft is rampant all across America. It is corrupt, and your vote means nothing. Your vote doesn't mean a damn thing unless you put a stop to absentee voting, provisional voting, mail-in balloting, and you make sure that every voter has an ID, a photo ID, and proof of citizenship, and only then are you allowed to vote, because voting in this country used to be an honor. Used to feel good to get to go vote and vote for your candidate and then poll for them to win. But it ain't honest anymore. It's terrible what has happened to destroy democracy in America, and it's the Democrat Party doing it because they steal every election they can possibly steal, and they get away with it time after time after time. And they're going to do it again this year, and they'll do it again next year. They'll do it as long as we let them get away with it. America has to put a stop to corrupt and illegal voting. And this is your hillbilly historian talking to you from the hills of East Tennessee and Appalachia. Good evening, all.